Hello, my YouTube friends. I hope you're all doing well. Forgive the long pause in videos. I was out traveling around. We went to Washington, D.C., as well as New York. Today, I'm going to talk about 3 dividend-paying stocks that I think you could buy tomorrow, Monday, when the market's open. Before I even start in the video, if you haven't already, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, make some comments in the video. I really appreciate the support. I love how I've seen the channel grow, and I want to thank you guys. Anyway, stick around, we'll get into the video, and I hope you enjoy the content. Good morning. Today is Sunday, March 17th. Forgive the pause, my brain does that sometimes. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Adam Kahn, and I'm the Rational Investor. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you enjoyed your weekend. We just got back from a fantastic trip with my son and my wife and my in-laws. Had a lot of fun. Today I'm going to talk about 3 stocks that you can buy tomorrow. Now, keep in mind, this is not financial advice. I'm just sharing my opinion. I'm just some guy on YouTube. You need to do your own research, decide what fits your portfolios and your investment strategies. These are just 3 companies that I already own and I like, and I think they're paying a really good dividend right now. I'm also staying with the theme of like bad news, good news type of stuff because these have been companies that have been out of favor for a little while. And I actually, on one of them in particular, it seems like it's finally beginning to trend higher. One nobody ever talks about, and I think it's a great investment. And the other one I've talked about a few times, it's been out of favor for a while, still sitting near the lows, and I think it creates a really good opportunity. There was also some news, which I think some people think is big news in the real estate world. I'll touch into that in another video as well. But NAR settled on their lawsuit. NAR is NAR, National Association of Realtors. Well, I don't really know how it'll play out. I don't think anybody does. They still haven't figured out the rules of the future, but it will probably change things. I'm guessing you'll see buyer brokers agreements come into play a little bit more often as we move forward, and I think that'll just be the main difference. Anyway, let's get into these 3 stocks. There are 3 companies that I love. I own all 3 of them, and I think where they are now creates opportunity to maybe dig in a little deeper if you have a position, or potentially consider getting into them if you don't have a position. They're in no particular order. Really, I was just looking at some ones that I think are discounted currently. I'm always watching the markets, and I really enjoy it. So the first one I'm going to talk about today is Dow Inc. DOW. I never hear anybody on YouTube talking about Dow, and I think they are a great, well-diversified company. They seem to be pushing towards the top of their range that they've been in for a long time. So maybe you can get some better pricing at the same time. It fell maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago from 70 and change, which is where I think it's probably pretty fairly valued, all the way down to, I think it got below 50. And I think nothing has really changed in the company. I think they're really a good place to be in. Currently, they're paying almost a 5% dividend. When I looked before doing the video, it was at 4.88 based on Friday's close, which is why I say I think it's a really good opportunity, even where it is, even if it falls back to the bottom of the range that it's been trading in. I don't see anything that's really big in the news with them. I just think it's an overlooked company that nobody's really paying attention to. And I think you could have a decent return in terms of growth. And I think you could also get a nice dividend. Me in particular, if I can get 5% return or close to it on any investment, I think that's really reasonable in terms of a dividend to receive and try to use towards paying bills or whatever else. I also think Dow is one of those companies that's so well diversified. If one thing's struggling, another thing will be doing well. I think they're well run, and I think they'll continue to do well into the future. So that's number one on my list today. Now, number 2 and 3 are for sure going to have some people who are haters of them. I totally get it. They've got some negative things going on as well. One of them I talk about often, which is Pfizer, ticker symbol PFE. I know they had a big boom from the COVID vaccine stuff, and now they're kind of not loved and doing not so great. But I think that's what creates the good opportunity. They're a really big company, and I don't really see them going out of business. Maybe they struggle for a few years, but I'm guessing they've got a bunch of things in development for future medicines that we'll use. I think they're enmeshed in that space and one of the big boys. And I think you look for when they're out of favor. So all the things that people tell me that are the negatives, to me, I see that as what creates the lower price point and the higher yield. Whatever's going on today will be different in a year or two. And if I hold on for the next 5 or 10 years, I'm guessing it's a company I would do just fine in. And right now, they're paying a dividend of close to 6%, which is incredible. Now, it is possible they'll run into a situation where they have to cut the dividend to use the money towards other things. So you can't really rely on dividends, even though all three of these companies I'm presenting today are dividend stocks. You have to be wary that they could cut them, they could lower them, they could do all sorts of things with the dividends. They are not a guarantee. At the same time, currently, if you want to have some dividend income, Pfizer is a company that's paying a really nice dividend. And again, I just see them continuing to grow over time. And my guess is I'll continue to receive some income. The company will eventually turn around. And at some point, they'll be back in favor and people love them and want to own it again instead of not wanting to own it. I used to see that play out time and time again with Altria before they split into the two different companies and they were just Philip Morris. They would get into some massive lawsuit. The stock would be in the news. It would be near the lows, and they would talk about how terrible it would be. The dividend would get up to a huge amount, and nobody would love the stock. And eventually it got out of the news, and nobody was talking about it, and life would move on, and they would do just fine. Now, that's not one of the stocks I'm talking about today. I have no issue with Altria or Philip Morris. It's just not one of the ones I'm presenting. So, last on my list is one that I've talked about once or twice, which is 3M, MMM, which seems to be finally breaking out of its range and traded up above 100 again. Um, what I saw on Friday, I think it closed around $104 a share, maybe around $105 a share. And their current dividend is also almost 6%. Based on Friday's close, it was 5.86%. Again, they may have to cut that dividend or lower the amount. It's not something I would rely on. But 3M, kind of like Dow, has such a huge array of different products. I mean, if you don't know them and you're not familiar with them, they do scotch tape. They also do post-its and all sorts of things you use. But they also do things in the medical field that you may not be aware of, and they get their hands into, I want to say they have over 1,700 different SKUs. So that's a huge array of products to span all over usage and industries. They ran into a lawsuit for dirtying water or the environment. It pushed the stock down below $100 a share for a long time, and I thought that created really good opportunity. It had finally gotten out of there, and then bam, they reported earnings, and news came out, and it fell right back down. Again, I think creating a second opportunity to pick it up at a low price. What do they say? The stock market is one of the only places that when things go on sale, people run for the hills. I kind of think that's true. People get overexcited when things go higher, and they get overly scared when things go lower. These big corporations tend to weather the storm and do just fine. Look at Target. Now, of course, I pat myself on the back and I talk about it, but just because it's something so recent, when it fell down below $110 a share, and they were talking about their woke politics, and they were talking about how they're closing shops because business is so bad. Well, what I saw is they're closing shops that aren't making money and that are having theft problems, and generating and working on focusing on the stores that are doing well. That should increase profits. I think we might see similar with these other companies. It allows them to transition to just focusing on the places they're doing well, and continue in that range instead of worrying about where they're struggling. They've been through these ups and downs with economies before, and their longevity is part of what gives them the strength. So when the bad news comes out and the stock prices go lower and they go on sale and people run for the hills, if your time horizon is 5 years or longer, they generally work through it and move along and continue higher. That's when it creates opportunity. I'll mention one other stock because I talked about it in another video, which was Disney, because to me that was very similar when they were talking about their politics and how they were struggling so badly and the stock continued to fall. And now they're not really in the news a whole lot. Every time I look, it seems to be drifting higher. Nobody's paying attention. Maybe it continues to run when nobody pays attention. When it gets in the news is oftentimes at the lows or at the highs of a stock move, and then people forget about it. They go on about their business, and then the stock does what it does naturally based on their earnings, not based on news and media and things of making people overexcited or overly scared. Anyway, do me a favor, if you haven't, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. Don't forget to make some comments. I really appreciate everybody getting involved. It's been cool to watch the channel grow. Have a great day.